Are you thinking about seeding your lawn in this spring? I want you to know it's a terrible idea. Don't do it. But that's not gonna stop me or you. We're lawn care nuts. We like to push the limits. So in this video, I'm gonna show you what worked for me in the past, what didn't work, so hopefully we can get you started on the right path. So with our seeding project, one of the things we need to pay attention to is our grass seed, and not necessarily the specific brand of grass seed that we're using, but more about the type of grass seed that we're using. Because there's certain grasses that germinate fast and certain grasses that germinate slow. So we want to make sure that we get that faster germinating grass, because it all comes down to how much the roots can develop before the summertime temperatures get here. Now, if you're thinking about seeding Kentucky bluegrass in the springtime, I'm going to tell you right now, it's pretty much a lost cause. Don't even try it. I did it to this boulevard strip here last spring. If you guys remember, I did a video about it. And although I did get good germination, by the time summertime was over, most of the grass was fried. I did this leveling video here towards the end of summer, and you could see almost 50% of the grass died by the time I filmed that video. So all I did was overseed it once fall got here. And now if we take a look at it, it's nice and full. So just be sure, guys, if you guys are seeding here in the springtime, set your expectations low, because if your project isn't 100% success, you don't have to feel so bad. If anything, it's a learning experience. Now over here, if you guys recall, I made a video where I seeded this tall fescue over here in the summertime, and this gets mostly shade throughout the day. And even though this was a summer seeded project, you could take a look at the fescue and it came in pretty well. So one thing that I can tell you is if you're gonna seed in the springtime or even the summertime, you're gonna have much more success if you do it in a shady area rather than an area that has full sun. Alright guys, like I was saying earlier, the type of grass seed that you use matters a lot. So that's why I'm going to be using this turf type tall fescue right here. Now the reason I'm using fescue is because it does good in full sun. If you take a look over there on the side of the house, I seeded this last fall. This is all titanium 2LS fescue seed, and let me tell you, this stuff looks awesome. It's dark green, and this side of the house gets full sun almost 24/7, and I don't irrigate back here whatsoever. Now I'll be honest, this seed right here is a little bit pricey. If you want to save a little bit of money, you could buy the Jonathan Green seed, which is also really good, and it's a little bit cheaper than this. You can get the one in the yellow bag. Do not get the one in the blue bag, because the one with the blue bag has Kentucky bluegrass in it, and we want 100% fescue so we could have the best result. Now aside from turf type tall fescue, another fast germinating seed is perennial ryegrass. Now I can't speak to it seeding in the springtime because I personally never did it, but what I do know is that tall fescue is going to definitely have a lot more heat resistance versus the perennial ryegrass. Alright, so now that we spread our seed, we're going to want to grab a rake and lightly rake it in. When I say lightly rake, I mean real lightly. Now in order for our seeds to grow, they need to have good seed to soil contact. So once you're done raking it in, just lightly tamp on it with your feet, which is going to encourage its growth. Alright guys, aside from the hot weather that we're going to have in the summertime, one of the biggest issues that we're going to run into seeding in the spring is weeds. Now here's the thing, it's a little bit tricky to control them because we can't use a regular pre-emergent, and we also can't use regular post-emergents because they could affect how much our seeds grow. But that's okay, because we have a secret product that can help us with our weed control. This stuff is called Mesotrione, aka Tenacity. You probably saw it in 100 lawn care videos. This stuff right here is going to act as a pre-emergent. This is the only pre-emergent that you could apply while seeding, and it won't affect the grass seeds from growing. All right guys, I want to give a quick shout out to the guys who manufacture this Mesotrione right here. They're called Sanco Industries, and not just because they're a sponsor, but I really like what they're doing in the herbicide market. Now it's no secret that the world is being affected by supply chain issues right now. I remember last year I made a video about glyphosate, and this bottle was $20 a bottle, and fast forward to today on Amazon, it costs $60. This generic Tenacity right here, it only costs $40 for 8 ounces. If you take a look at the regular Tenacity, it's like $60, $70 depending where you buy it. So they're giving you the same amount of product for almost half the price. And to me, that's just a company I could really get behind. So we're gonna mix this stuff up in a tank sprayer, and we're gonna spray those areas that we just seeded. right guys, now that we got all that done, we have to apply a starter fertilizer. Now you can use the Scott starter fertilizer or Next starter fertilizer, but the one that I'm going to apply today, I can probably bet that most of you guys already have it in your garage. You guys probably guessed it, Milorganite. Now there's actually a reason why I like using this versus other starter fertilizers, especially when overseeding and seeding in the springtime. Number one is because it's a slow release. You don't have to worry about a bunch of excess top growth from your existing grass while you're getting those grass seeds to germinate. And number two is because it has a lot of phosphorus in there, and that's what encourages deep roots, which is especially going to become handy for us while we're seeding. So when it comes to applying the Milo, we're just going to follow the bag rate, which is 32 pounds per 2,500 square feet. Alright guys, once all that is said and done, one of the most important things you need to do for success is water your new baby grass seeds. Because if you don't keep up with the watering, A, you're not going to have germination, and B, it's not going to survive the summertime. Now I cannot stress this enough, and the only reason I'm stressing it really hard is because I remember when I was a rookie at lawn care, I honestly underestimated how much water our lawns needed. You want to make sure that you water it 3 times a day for at least 5 minutes each time. Now the goal is to not drench it and wash away all the seed. You want to use a light misting setting either on your hose nozzle or on your sprinkler. Make sure it's misting. You don't want to have like jet streams hitting it. And you want to do that every single day. Make sure you stay religious about it, because if you don't, those seedlings will dry up. And then you want to continue that watering practice throughout the summertime. Especially once those 100-degree days come, you want to make sure you're wetting the lawn all day long and you're keeping that grass seed cool and you're keeping the top layer wet. So earlier I mentioned to you guys how I never seeded a perennial ryegrass lawn in the springtime. So I wanted to invite a lawn care legend onto the channel who seeded one of the most iconic perennial ryegrass lawns from scratch during the springtime. So without further ado, Brett Goodyear, thank you so much for coming on to the channel. Can you share a little bit with the viewers on how you were able to seed a ryegrass lawn from scratch during the springtime?
Hey George, that's a great question. So let me share a couple of tips that helped me take my lawn from bare dirt to a beautifully seeded lawn in about a month in the spring of 2020. So tip number one, have way more seed than you anticipate needing. I had a handful of spots that didn't necessarily germinate great when I first put down the seed. And because I had extra seed, I was able to watch those spots and find the areas that weren't coming in great and seeded in them pretty quickly when I saw that I had germination in other places. So step number two, proper watering. Obviously you need to water a lot during seeding, and I had an irrigation system that I had running 2 or 3 times a day depending on the weather. And then in between those times, I would be out in my lawn and I would be checking to see, is there areas that are looking too dry, and hand watering those. I feel like that really helped me springboard into success and was a huge factor in why my lawn was able to establish really well. So the final step kind of goes hand in hand with steps 1 and 2, and that's make sure you're paying attention. You have to be diligent, especially when you're seeding in the spring, to know where your problem areas are. Know where you're not getting enough water. Know where there's more shade. The things like that. All of these things that if you're out in your lawn daily and you're really paying attention are gonna be the things that really help you be successful when you're trying to seed in the spring. Hope that answers your question, George. Back to you.
Hey Brett, thank you so much for sharing your success with us. If any of you guys want to check out his channel, I'll leave it in the description. You could go check it out. But hey, if you found any value in this video, make sure you hit that like button. And with that, this is George from Princess Cut. Peace.